You know, one of the best parts of my job is being able to visit our congregations. For our congregations are the lifeblood of our tradition. And when our congregations are strong, our faith thrives, because it is here where lives are changed, here where children are nurtured, here where our spirits and our hearts grow in depth and wisdom. It is here where lives are saved. And I know this personally because when I was 5 years old, Unitarian Universalism saved my life. When I was young, my family was falling apart. There's a lot of reasons for it. One reason was that my parents were on the verge of divorce. It was the mid-70s, and my mom had gotten active in the Equal Rights Amendment and the feminist movement, and well, that wasn't what my dad had signed up for. And that meant that they had to fundamentally renegotiate everything about their marriage. And that wasn't easy. What it meant was that my home was not a peaceful or joyful place. But I have another memory from my young life, and that was of my Sunday school class when I was 5 years old, and two very special religious education teachers. They were not a young couple, but they were a newly married couple. And that class was such a place of joy and love. And I could see how much those two people loved each other. And that experience sowed a seed of possibility in my heart. That something else was possible in a marriage. That something else was possible in a family. That something else was possible for me. And that seed of possibility made a fundamental difference in my life. And truth be told, I didn't even realize the impact of that experience until many years later. Our congregations are places of transformation. And when they are rooted in a spirit of love and justice and deep community, they unlock possibility and hope in ways that make an untold difference. I see you all here at First Unitarian leading just this kind of ministry. I see it in the way that you take the spiritual formation of your members seriously. I see it in the way that you embrace your young people and children. I see it in the ways that you are working to combat poverty in your larger community, and the way that you attend to creating worship and community that nurtures resiliency and courage. As I travel across the country, one of the things I have found is that when congregations embrace an understanding of mission and have a sense of a calling that is beyond just serving themselves, this is where our ministries really thrive. It's one of the reasons why I put mission at the center of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Now, a lot of people where I go, they ask, what is the UUA? What does it do? Well, the UUA's core mission is to equip congregations for vital ministry, to train and support leaders, and to advance UU values in the larger world. You can see the impact of the UUA's mission in resources like our hymnals, our religious education curriculum, and our Whole Lives Comprehensive Sexuality curriculum, which is saving the lives of young people every day, every place where it is taught, as it teaches the principles of consent, agency, and the beauty of the spectrum of gender identity and sexual orientation. OWL is life-saving. And there are so many other ways that the UUA supports our congregation. Our regional staff are there when congregations are in trouble or conflict, there to support and companion them along their journey. And all of this is possible because the UUA is not some separate organization. It is the embodiment of the covenant that all of our congregations make to each other. And you all, as First Unitarian Church of Dallas, you are one of our leadership congregations, one of our most generous congregations in the association, what we call an honor congregation, which means that you give your full fair share of what is asked from the UUA. Now, a few months after I was elected president, 2.5 years ago, president of the UUA, I got to go back to my home church and say thank you to those leaders, many who I didn't know, and I was able to say to them, because of your generosity as leaders, as volunteers, as teachers, your financial generosity, all the ways you've nurtured this church, you had no idea that my life was being saved in that RE classroom. And all of you are doing that same thing here in the ways that you nurture this church, its ministry, and its vision for humanity. And I want to let you know I'm so grateful for your generosity, because that means that the UUA is able to be there for your sibling congregations when they are in need, and that you are touching the lives of Unitarian Universalists you'll never meet, and impacting UU congregations that you'll never visit. This is what it means to be part of a larger faith community and held in covenant with one another. As UUA president, it is my hope that we are an increasingly strong and effective partner to all of our congregations, because these times that we are living in, both nationally and globally, are exactly the context in which we need to realize how important our liberating faith is. A tradition that holds the inherent worth and dignity of every person as central. A tradition that believes in the practice of democracy, that affirms the values of justice, equity, and compassion, and a commitment to human rights as core values. Not only this, a tradition that believes in science and the pursuit of truth. We only need to watch the daily news to understand how deeply needed that is. Amen. What is so clear to me is that this is no time for a casual commitment to your faith, no time for a casual commitment to your congregation or to the values you hold dear. And this is no time to be in it alone. We need one another right now. In this moment, as Unitarian Universalists, we are called not just to speak, but to demonstrate our faith powerfully and boldly. Now is the time to embrace more fully the deepest expression and practice of our theology. And in particular, I want to lift up today our Universalist theology. Universalism teaches us that no one is outside of the circle of love, that salvation is not individual but collective. And the way we live this faith is learning to take risks for the principles of justice, equity, and compassion for all people today in this life. Now, this is not only a deeply universalist message, it's also a deeply humanist message. For ours is a faith that is not concerned with the hereafter, but with the here and now, and the conditions of the lives of our neighbors and one another. And right now, xenophobia, anti-immigrant fervor, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, white nationalism, sexism, racism, transphobia, the climate crisis, military escalation, poverty, the denial of rights to gay and lesbian and bisexual people, voter suppression, attacks on people with disabilities, gun violence. I wish the list were not so long. But all of these are threatening the lives and the well-being and the safety of our neighbors, our children, our communities, the lives and safety and needs of all people. So much is on the line, and this is why we must take up this charge that Dr. King gives to us as religious people, gives to us as the body of the church. He says, if the church will free itself, liberate itself from the shackles of a deadening status quo, and recovering its great historic mission will speak and act fearlessly and insistently in terms of justice and peace, it will enkindle the imagination of humankind and fire the souls of men and women, imbuing them with a glowing and ardent love of truth, justice, and peace. Now, I love the way that King connects the work of justice, the mission of the church, to enkindling the imagination of humankind. In her recent book, Emergent Strategy, the author, activist, and feminist Adrienne Marie Brown says that right now we're in an imagination battle. And some imaginations give us scarcity and fear. Some imaginations are focused only on winners and losers, on the worthy and the unworthy. Yet as religious people, we are fundamentally in the business of cultivating the spiritual imagination of people. And Unitarian Universalism imagines a world not of scarcity and division, but one of sustenance and care, one of abundance and possibility, one of love and justice. And it is this imagination that we need to breathe life into, in how we gather, in how we worship, and in how we live and act right now. We are being called to live our faith out loud, visibly, not just to tend it with one another. Yes, we need to tend it with one another and grow our spirits for compassion and love so that we may bring that spirit of love out into the world. We are called to bring our bravest, our boldest, and our most loving selves to love the hell out of this world. Because truthfully, those early Universalists were not just talking about salvation, they were talking about liberation in this time, being free from those forces of division that cast some out as unworthy and undeserving. And our faith is a powerful remedy to that vision of a divided future, and brings a vision of humanity united as one in God and in creation. We need to bring this spirit, my friends, into our communities and into the streets and into the halls of government and into the voting booth. We are 10 months away from the most critical election in my lifetime. You will choose your candidates as individuals, but as a movement, I propose that we you the vote. Now, what do I mean by that, you the vote? Well, out in the larger community, Unitarian Universalists, are known as the people who show up faithfully and consistently. And I challenge us over the next 10 months to not only be the people who show up, but the people who get others to show up and turn out to vote. We have the opportunity, we have the ability, and we have the power to show what it looks like for those who ascribe to a faith of love to challenge the forces of hate and division. And what happens in November 2020, my friends, matters to each and every one of us. And it matters to our children, and it matters to their children. And what we do starting today begins to write what happens in November. Now, the third part of the UUA's mission, I said, was to advance UU values in the world, and we do this through partnership with our congregations and in providing national leadership and coordination. So from now until the 2020 election, we will be rolling out a comprehensive, multi-tiered, association-wide UU the Vote strategy that is designed to be accessible to congregations and UUs everywhere. We will collaborate with movement partners as well as UU organizations, UU statewide advocacy networks, congregations, and individuals to help Unitarian Universalists grow and sharpen our skills for faith-based electoral organizing. Now let's just take a moment today, on this King Sunday, and remember how crucial the struggle for voting rights was to the civil rights movement. Let us remember the sacrifices that so many made to win more people in this country the right to vote. We remember Fannie Lou Hamer. We remember John Lewis, who is still fighting today for voting rights in this country. We remember those who gave their lives in Selma, Jimmy Lee Jackson, and Unitarian Universalists, the Reverend James Reeb and laywoman Viola Luzo. As women across this country take to the streets this weekend, let's also remember that 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, granting women the right to vote. We remember the women who organized and endured, who were tortured in jail cells, all in the struggle to win the right to vote. We remember Ida B. Wells and Alice Paul. And we remember the women who didn't live to see its passage. Sojourner Truth, and Unitarians Frances Ellen Watkins Harper and Susan B. Anthony. On this King Sunday, it is imperative that we honor King not by just remembering his words, but understanding how his words, his action, and his leadership, and the leadership and action and vision of all of those people I named, call us to live today and act today. We honor his legacy. We honor their legacy by living it today, by giving it life today. How many of you are already actively involved in voter registration and voter mobilization efforts? Thank you. Here's my message to you. Keep it up and find ways to bring it up a notch. And to all of you who did not raise your hand, let me say that this is no time to be on the sidelines. Do not sit this one out. Now is the time to start to find your partners in your community that are working on the issues that you care about, and volunteer with them and begin to get out there and register voters and turn out the vote. Two critical resources that we have as congregations are people and spaces to meet and organize. And in this moment when democracy is under attack with increasingly sophisticated voter suppression efforts, so many efforts to roll back those rights that have been won by the generations that came before us, we must become voter registration, voter education, and voter mobilization hubs. I imagine congregations across this country organizing voter engagement tables, helping members not only register and make sure their registration is active, but helping connect members to partner groups mobilizing the vote in the wider community. I see us opening our congregations to host voter education events around the issues that are critical to our core values. And the UUA will help nationally and invest strategically in key areas to organize UUs to show up in the states where our presence can really impact the outcome. I want to share with you a few specifics. So right now we're already hiring an organizer in Wisconsin. Why? Because Wisconsin's been facing incredible voter suppression and gerrymandering efforts that undermine democracy and the power of people's voices. Not only that, we have 3 large churches in Wisconsin. We have a strong number of Unitarian Universalists already there. We're investing in an organizer to amplify and support those congregations so they can find partners, they can mobilize their people, they can call UUs from around the country to come to Wisconsin and help them get out the vote. Now today your offering, Daniel mentioned the offering, here comes the ask. Your offering today has an opportunity to impact UU the Vote. It's going to go to a fund within UU the Vote called the State Action Fund. This is about investing in key states where there are going to be ballot issues around GLBT equity, around a living wage, around reproductive rights, that we can provide grants to statewide action networks, UU statewide action networks, or congregations that are deep in this work and mobilizing people. Those grants will expand what they can do, and again, help UUs from across the country text text voters in that state or show up to knock doors. This is a critical moment. It's no time to sit on the sidelines, right? We have to fight for the values that are most important to us, the values of human rights and human dignity, the values of democracy. For we as Unitarian Universalists, this is not just political. And I believe, and I am guilty of this, that I have long held back my own voice. We cannot do that. 200 years ago, Universalists transformed the religious landscape of this country. 200 years ago, to a country that was defined by a narrative of God that was divisive and vengeful, that was separating the saved from the unsaved. Universalism brought forth an imagination that we are one in God and one in creation. We need to amplify the voice and presence of our values and our faith right now. This is not just about politics. This is faithful moral action, because we hold democracy and the right of all people to have a voice and a vote as fundamental to our 7 principles. This is about protecting democracy. This is about protecting the inherent worth and dignity of all people. This is about saving lives on the border and saving women's lives when they need an abortion. This is about the care for our planet and our commitment to justice and equity for the generations to come. And if we start right now, then in the fall, we've already built the muscle of the partnerships, of talking to our neighbors, of knocking on doors, of making phone calls, so that we can turn that all out for the issues and individually for the candidates that we care about. I am grateful that this Sunday your offering will make a direct impact on you, the vote. Now, we don't know all the places that we'll invest in because ballot initiatives will still be coming out. But your contribution today is going to help individual UUs in states, it may even be in Texas, as well as across the country, make an impact on this election. Thank you for being part of this campaign. Thank you for not taking our faith casually, but remembering how life-giving and liberating it is and how needed it is in this time. Imagine what it would mean if our 150,000 Unitarian Universalists got 500,000 new people to vote. Imagine the difference that would make. 500,000 people to vote love, to vote for the positive in humanity, and to vote their values. Dr. Cornel West likes to say that Unitarian Universalists are small but mighty, that we punch above our fighting weight. But we are small, but we are mighty, and that mighty love and spirit-centered courage is just what we need today. I am so grateful for this honor of serving as your president of the UUA, and I know that I cannot do what I do, and the UUA can't do what it's called to do, and we can't respond to this moment in time without your strong and consistent and generous support. Thank you. I am inspired as I travel across this country. I am inspired with what we are already doing and the ways that we are embracing a deeper practice of community, a bolder commitment to act in solidarity for justice, and a more courageous expression of our Unitarian Universalism. May we keep answering this call. May it be so.